Nobody has a clue.
Thoughts are always right there.
Well, that's the mind. How about sensations? That's the mind. According to Buddhism, all our senses have consciousnesses. So we have taste consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, body consciousness, and something else, because you have to forget one. Smell consciousness, eye consciousness. And then we have mental consciousness, but it's all mind. But obviously our sense consciousnesses are dependent on the body. So sometimes the body doesn't have an organ that works, so you may not have that particular sense consciousness. But being able to discern, so that's why when we talk about how useful it is to be aware of what's going on in your body, because sometimes that's where we notice what's going on in our mind first. We're getting agitated. Well, we don't really notice that in our mind. We're not paying attention that way. But we do notice if we've got a tight spot somewhere that's indicating we're not totally comfortable. It's really useful to get very familiar with all the things that are happening in our mind. So let's just take a moment, really be aware of the sense consciousnesses, what they're experiencing in this moment. Body feeling the chair, the cushion. The skin feeling the temperature in the room. The ears hearing various sounds. The eyes seeing all kinds of colors, objects, other people. And take a few deep breaths, allowing the breath to ease any spots of tension in your body. Allowing the body to relax. Knowing that you chose to be here this morning. So there's nowhere else you need to be. So before starting any new activity, it's good to leave past activity behind. Not start thinking about future activity. But set an intention to use your time well with this activity, what's happening now. And my intention is to share information I have on teachings that for me have been gold. Totally changed my mind. And I want to share that with others. And it's always good when we set an intention that we think about not just benefiting ourselves, with the wish that it'll ripple out and benefit those around us. So let's start by reciting the four measurables. I can do that since we don't have a mouse. I define it. I have about 17 things open. That's what it does. Can you minimize the?
Yep.
May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. I'll recite the refuge prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened into the Dharma. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Nana. Hello. Everybody's is, where's Nana? So wonderful to see you. Hope you are well.
I'm so happy to be here.
We're glad to see you. All righty. Okay, so hey, how are you?
Good. Good
Good.
to be back.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right. So who knows anybody? Marianne, do you know the person next to you?
I think his name is Steve. No. For a while.
And who's behind y'all? Deepen. And so I make him introduce himself as he walks across the room now. I won't. So Steve, so what is your name?
Mira.
Mira,
Allison.
Allison, Nick, Margaret, Tanya, Randy, Roy,
Lacey.
Lacey,
Steve.
Steve,
Haley.
Haley,
Tara.
Tara, Vanessa, okay,
Alan.
Alan, Graciela, Debbie, Dan, Anne, Gina, Lori,
Natalia. Natalia.
Natalia. That's a beautiful name. This is Anthony, and this is Hernan, and this is me, Tendron. Tendron, like the number 10, and then Dron. I pronounce it with a southern accent, so the Tibetans never know what I'm saying. So anyway, so doesn't matter.
Does that mean we all mispronounce your name?
Listen, Westerners, I mean, if I learned early that the safest way to speak to a monk or nun was to say venerable. That's, either I couldn't remember the name or I didn't know how to pronounce it. So, and that works for pretty much everybody.
You get to be respectful and
yes, you get to be respectful and not look like you can't remember their name. So anyway, that's very important. So Vanessa, Tara, Haley, Steve,
Lacey.
Lacey, Roy, Randy, yeah, I forgot. I'll try again. I can't remember. Okay. All right. So anyway. So figuring out how to use the teachings, which are basically, to be straightforward, the teachings are saying that the actual way to happiness, not the way we think is the way to happiness, which is based on a misperception of how we exist. We have an idea of us all being little separate beings in here, right? And in one sense, we are. In another sense, we're all interconnected. And our happiness depends on each other. So we want to get in the habit of recognizing when we're putting ourselves and everything that we think belongs to us, like my family, my friends, my job, my work, whatever you label as mine, above everybody else, instead of seeing them all as equal, worthy of kindness, compassion, generosity, thoughtfulness, mindfulness, just even noticing that there are other people, all in this, what this helps us to do in just on a micro level, right? Yeah, micro small, is that in each interaction we have with other living beings, it's going to be likely to be more pleasant because we're creating the condition for that, as opposed to if we're interacting with others always with a mind of judgment foremost in our mind of that other person, or seeing the other person as inconsequential because we don't know their name, that they're a stranger, or that we just think, I'm never going to see this person again, who cares? Whereas instead, if you see everybody as a potential friend, it enriches your life. It just makes every moment a little better. And it means that if you're waiting in a waiting room at the doctor's office, you don't have to waste time. You don't have to just tap your finger and play Candy Crush throughout, while you're waiting. Waiting. You could actually look at the other people in the room and think thoughts of compassion about them, send them kindness, hope that they're not waiting for bad results from the doctor, whatever it is. You can use it as an opportunity to cherish others. But this comes from this, remembering, which is what mindfulness is. It's remembering, remembering that our happiness is interconnected with others. So if we want to feel better, calmer, whatever, the more we let people into our heart, the more safe, secure we can feel. It takes practice. We are so accustomed to shielding our heart and not trusting others that it takes a little practice to just open it up and recognize that, we could possibly be friends with everybody we meet. Not, it's not like likely, in the sense of, you see someone and you just connect with them automatically, which with some people we have that experience with. But the fact that they have a different world that they inhabit, they have different circles of friends, different jobs, different, and we're just coming together in this waiting room of the doctor's office, doesn't mean we're all that different. And so being able to just recognize that other people, like strangers, are exactly like our friends. They want happiness. They don't want to suffer. They probably got stories, happening in their lives. They have issues, things are happening, they're not isolated beings with nothing going on. So the more that we can access this part of the way we think, instead of the part where we're just going, oh, I wonder what she was thinking when she got dressed this morning, or, you know, I wonder when they're going to get to me. They came after me and they're called first. Blech. You know, whatever we do, or just being bored. Oh my God, I can't believe I have to wait another, you know, whatever. You know, I hope nobody has a contagious disease in here. Whatever we're thinking, you know, or we're just daydreaming about the future or the past. So what does that do for us? The daydreaming, huh?
Awesome.
Well, it's not living your life, is it? There's something happening right now, you know? So the more we spend experiencing right now, the more we live our lives, rather than waiting for the next thing or rehearsing the past. Why do we do things like daydream or get caught up in the past and the future?
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction. What is it distracting us from in the waiting room?
Boredom, perhaps the boredom
Of waiting.
or discomfort of being with the present experience that may not be like fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. Yeah, that's right. How many people like to wait? Yeah, that's pretty universal. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, we don't like it. Yes, Steve.
I was saying that the daydreaming is just a default because we don't learn how to be present. So
Well, but we also have the habit of liking to be entertained. It's both.
yeah,
You know, somebody, you know, like we don't have parents that say, oh, you can learn to sit quietly.
but sometimes the daydreaming is not necessarily what we consider entertainment.
Well, but it's a distraction. I mean, I think, you know, I read murder mysteries. Those are really pleasant. You know, so, you know, like we like to be entertained in whatever way that is. I like murder mysteries that are about, you know, thoughtful detectives who are working with their minds. Trying, you know, I couldn't care less about murderers or the crime. I don't want to know the crime. I can, you know, that's one advantage of a book. You know, you can just kind of not read those parts. Anyway, but I love reading about people. You know, so that's my distraction. I mean, you know, that started, you know, I got it from my mom, you know, she had all the mystery novels, you know, borrowed them all. So, but the point is, we just like to have something to do that isn't just waiting for someone to show up, you know, and so we go, you know, we create something to do. And we do that all day long because it becomes a habit, you know. I mean, that's why we have expressions like, you know, well, what is it? I like to daydream because I'm the most entertaining person in the room, or, you know. You know, it's just, so we have to really notice how much life do we lose to distraction so that we can make a conscious decision to be present for our lives. Yep.
Thinking about it, and it seems like that has a lot to do with attachment, because when you're thinking about what happened, you can't change anything, but you're still reevaluating. Oh, if I had done this way, maybe. So you're still attached to the result of something that has already happened and you have no control over. And you're thinking about something that's going to happen in the future, and you're planning for everything to come according with what you're looking for. So I think that maybe this is like attachment to the present, that to the past, and attachment to the future.
And what is it all really attachment to?
The-
What's beyond,
the
underneath that?
outcomes.
Control. We think we can control outcomes by, I don't know. I really don't know. We think that we can, but we do. We could, because like, just like you said, you look at the past and we go, oh, if I had said this, maybe this would have been the outcome. If I, you know, that somehow we can control outcomes. If you really look at your experience, you might find out that that's not true. that you can do everything that seems the appropriate things to do and still get yelled at by someone, still get in a car wreck, still, fall down the stairs. I mean, we can't really control outcomes. We can do our best to like take care of our health, to take care of our strength, to take care of paying attention to what we're doing so we don't fall down the stairs, things like that. But we can't really control outcomes because of who else is usually present?
Others.
Others. Those disturbing others, other people, other anything, other agendas, huh?
Objects, phenomena.
Yeah, technology, one of my favorites. So, so we want to get in a place where we understand, it comes back to this interdependence, that our happiness depends on each other. So we can't control other people. I'm not sure we really would want to if we could. Reminds me of that Twilight Zone episode where the guy's in hell, I think. Now he doesn't think he's in hell, but he's, winning everything. Everything's going his way. And he just looked at the person the major D, person who seemed to be in charge and said, I'm really bored. I'd like to, switch places now. Instead of being in heaven, I'd like to go to hell. And he just looked at it and goes, what makes you think you're not in hell?
Right. If we had no conflict, we would have a boring life. That's what life is, resistance and conflicts.
It is not what life
Well,
is,
but
that's how we fill
what
it.
is. What happens? Yeah.
We fill it
We think, yeah.
with this idea that if I was in control,
Right.
I would be happy because I'd get what I want. That's error number one, is thinking that getting what you want equals happiness. Yes, Graciela.
I was thinking that when I have a problem, I get to rehearse the supposed solution in this way and this other way and this other way, none of which I can control, none of which, but it's like this sort of myth that I can solve it in my head.
Yep. How's that working for you?
Terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't work. I mean, that's the problem. So we need to really understand that that doesn't work. We can keep trying to do it. And it'll keep slapping us in the face. What do we have control over?
Ourselves.
Ourselves. Our actions of body, speech, and mind. Now, it doesn't feel like we're under control of them all the time. Like when anger arises, does it feel like you can control that? That's really a habit. What's another one? Lack of confidence, insecurity, when that arises. We have a bunch of, we are conditioned. Like Buddhism talks about cause and effect, that everything has a cause and everything is an effect of some cause. Well, our habits are like that. Habits are things we've become very, very familiar with doing. So we need to look at our habits and see if we think they're useful. And if we realize maybe they're not so useful, maybe we can change that habit. But then we have to create a new habit. And that takes effort. It takes mindfulness. It takes recognizing, ooh, there I'm going again, and trying to practice not going there again. That takes a lot of thought, reflection, and calming the mind down. We can slow down a bit in our heads. That will create lots of opportunities to change direction. So we can catch, I'm getting irritated now. I know where that leads me, and then so I know to stop thinking, speaking, certainly stop speaking, don't speak, and slow it down. So I can go, okay, What am I being, why am I being impatient? I mean, these are the kind of conversations we can have in our heads, Oh, because I'm not getting what I want at the time when I want it, queen baby here, I want what I want when I want it. And those are pretty easy to let go of. Sort of like, oh, are you a child? It's pretty easy to see yourself going, okay, get over it. Everybody has to wait. Just get over it. Other times it may be because they're not doing it the way I want them to do it, or the way I think that is the best way to do it, or whatever. And so I'm getting impatient with their process. Is that a reasonable attitude towards someone else? I'm not convinced. What gets in the way of that?
What?
Wanting someone else to do something the way you think is the best way to do it.
Control.
Control. Yeah, I mean, you might be in control the way you do it, but you're kind of thinking that you should be able to control the way other people do it. Is that reasonable?
No.
So we need to see what is our habit, like, so in that moment you can kind of go, oh, I think that people should do things the way I think they should. Well, that's ridiculous. Maybe I should let go of that habit. It's just a way of really understanding that these habits affect how we feel and what we say and what we do. Yeah.
Where does it come from?
Habit. I mean, just, we learn some from our parents, certain ways to respond to things. Like if our parents always told us, like, oh, let me do that for you. No patience for you to learn anything. That might become a habit. It could be that you brought it from past lives. We've had eons of experience, according to the Buddha, So we're just keep practicing things. But one of the main underlying features of this habit is thinking that getting what you want makes you happy. And that includes controlling other people's behavior. And it's just mistaken from the get-go. Happiness really isn't about getting what you want. We can temporarily get moments of pleasure from getting what we want. But if you've ever looked at how much storage you need, you might realize that maybe that's not what I need to be doing, is getting more stuff. It's just, and if you look at your, credit card bill at the end of the month and you go, gee, there's an awful lot of, takeout food in here. I don't know, whatever your thing is, maybe I don't need all this stuff, or maybe there's a lot of gadgets. We have a habit of thinking that accumulation, we live in a very consumer oriented culture that encourages us to buy, or subscribe, or, whatever. I mean, just constant, little care to just subscribe, save money now. Yeah. This is not born out of the, like that. Nobody's doing that to us. It reflects our habit. It works because we already have that habit. And we have pretty good conditions in this country where we have lots of, people, have jobs and they can make money and they can buy stuff. And I don't know, just we have pretty good conditions. We have leisure time. A lot of people don't have any leisure time. So we try to fill it with things that distract us, that seem, at least temporarily pleasurable. And at the end of the day, that doesn't amount to much in terms of our feeling satisfied. The trouble with craving things is that we're never satisfied. It just feeds the craving. So craving control over other people's behavior is never satisfied. So we need to look at what kind of thoughts we have and see what it tells us about what we believe. And then we need to argue with it. Is that true? Is it really true that I need other people to do things the way I think they should be doing them? Would that really make my life more interesting, less annoying? Or would I just find something new to be annoyed about? The Buddha said we have a habit of being dissatisfied, and it comes from our misunderstanding of things like what would make us happy. He suggests cherishing others. And this is why I practice with the, thinking about what will I think about on my deathbed? What will I care about in my life? Will it be the relationships I've had? The good works I may have done for others? What kind of stuff will we think about? Or will we think about, I still can't get my partner to do blah, blah, blah? Probably not. Having conflicts and disagreements and trying to control other people are probably not what we're going to be thinking about on our deathbed. So one of the reflections we can do is, what is meaningful? What do I find meaningful? What makes me feel satisfied? At the end of a day, when I feel good, what's that about? And really trying to understand ourselves and what drives us. Does that make sense? The more we can do that, the more we give ourselves permission to sit with ourselves and think about what matters to us on a deep level, the better choices we can make. This is all about choice. Our habits, because we've just been doing them all, like, oh, you push this button, I get angry. Push this button, I get impatient. Push this button, I grab chocolate cake. Push this button, I feel very insecure, all this kind of stuff. Instead, we could go, I'm going to pause and not just assume that the way I usually react is the best reaction for me. So we can start seeing the sacrifice. Yes, Dick.
Do you think we crave anger?
Do we think we crave anger? Anger is sort of the way I've learned about anger, and that was a big issue for me, is that it's a form of attachment to getting what we want. So that when we're not getting what we want, we get angry. Some people take a different route. Their habit might be getting really quiet and just kind of thinking that, I'm not worthy of anything. Other people get angry thinking that, it just depends. But it is all about attachment to what we want. Our cravings are about attachment to what we want. Our cravings are also about attachment to what we don't want. So we need to look at what part do we play in the picture. We can't control other people, but we're certainly a condition for other people to get angry, impatient, upset, blah, 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 blah. We can't do a lot about that, but we can check up on our own behavior, body, speech, and mind, and work on that. So we're choosing, how we want to proceed. Like in relationship issues, you may need to look at, okay, we always seem to have conflict around something, what's for dinner? What part am I playing in that conflict? What is it that I'm really hoping for when I ask someone what they want for dinner? In my case, it's, oh, I'll cook it. That's what I'm hoping someone else will say, you know. I only bring this up because I had two mothers and both of them really complained about having to come up with a menu for a week. They both were great cooks, you know, all that stuff. They were both married to the same man. This is my mother and my stepmom, you know. But they just thought, oh, what I hate about having to cook is deciding what to have. So it was a conflict in their relationship, you know, because they couldn't get any information, you know. So, you know, but that means, so you have to, okay, I can't get any information. So you might be able to talk about that and encourage your partner to, you know, let them know this is what drives me crazy about preparing meals every day. It has nothing to do with the fact that I've accepted that role in our relationship. It has to do with the fact that I've run out of ideas and I really need some help with this, you know. And if they still don't help, then you have to come up with another way within yourself to be okay. You know, that's when, you know, you get to decide when you go out to dinner or pick up takeout. You know, you don't put it on someone else. If we just keep beating ourselves up for why doesn't he help? Who's happy now? No one. Did y'all get out advice to pick your battles? Well, this is sort of part of that. You know, when we realize that a situation's out of our control, this resistance to what is, you know, what's going on, is making us miserable. And that we can choose something different, like acceptance.
What if we want something a certain way, but it's also because we have more experience in?
Oh, because you know more than someone else. Okay. So did people know more than you? Sometimes? Yeah. Okay. So how do you feel when they tell you what to do?
I get it.
Yeah. You know, it's okay if you have more experience. And if someone asks for help, it's okay to share it. They don't ask for help. How many of y'all like advice not asked for?
For the longest time, I've been thinking like, okay, how do you provide feedback effectively? And I realized one of the first steps is like, well, do you have rapport with the person? Maybe it's don't give it.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt the relationship more than
Yeah.
you know, is giving what you think the right answer is more important than perhaps developing a relationship where you could give that answer in the future and perhaps get cheap results. That's fascinating because it's just so many so many experiences of providing it and things not working well when you give it. That made me think, yeah, maybe it's.
And there's more than one way to do so. We forget that when we think, but I know the best way to do this. That in Buddhism is called an upside down pot. When you listening to someone and you think you know already, you don't take anything in. Nothing goes in. You've already decided. That is a big wall in relationships. In all relationships, coworkers, I mean, you know, the person, you know, in next to you in line at the, oh, who was here first? Whatever. You know, this idea that I know can be a huge obstacle to learning, to friendships, to all kinds of things. It's just not a good starting point. You know, if you want someone's advice, it's good to ask for it. You know, if you want to give someone advice, it's good to wait for their desire for it. The Buddha wouldn't give teachings unless he was asked to 3 times. And that was the reason. Because when we give advice when it's unwanted, what does the other person become?
Resistant,
Hmm?
resistant.
An upside down pot. You know, so the Buddha didn't want to waste what he considered, something that was golden information on people who really weren't interested, not ready to hear it, whatever. So, we really, these things of being aware, this is why it's so important to be, really aware what's going in my mind. So you can catch those thoughts. Well, I know how to do that better. Well, good for you. Shall we give you a ribbon? What is that worth? Yeah.
Sometimes matter of, I know how to do that better is really a matter of you like doing it that way. That it work, what the other person is doing works just as well for them, but you think that you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, this is what, like that usually indicates a bit of an impatience because it appears that what the other person's going to do is take longer, Yep.
No, I was saying often if you want to give somebody advice because you think that your way works better, if you just let yourself observe what they're doing, you might learn something yourself.
Right. And that's why an upside down bot gets in the way of these things. Because if you've already decided, you won't be looking for that. You won't be open to learning something new. My father did a lot of work with managers of like factories and different, things. And he always learned all about what they were making and how they made it. He was really, and he was genuinely interested in it, and it made his interactions with the people who, he had to spend a lot of time with every day more interesting, more, human, more, not just business. You just learn, and then you learn about what the difficulties might be and all that kind of stuff and what the challenges are. Have you ever walked into a factory of a bunch of machines? It is wild. They're making this one part, and it takes 75 machines to get to that part. And so somebody actually thought of all those different steps, and then someone created the machines that could do all those different. I think it's just the most remarkable thing in the world.
A little different now.
Hmm?
A little different now. I mean, it's all that. It's going to be all that. All the factories and Amazons are all going to be 99.9% robotic in the next 2 years. So it's a different situation, but still the same with machinery, doing that job.
Well, whatever.
Yeah,
It's not important what it might be in the future.
right.
We're just talking about
Well,
now.
it's happening now. Yeah, I understand.
So it's just this, being open to other people's lives, being interested, not just interested in what they can do for you. Because we often approach things that way without realizing it. We're just not looking. We're not looking at what's going on in our mind. We're not looking at what expectations we hold from other, about other people. We don't even share that with other people. And then if they disappoint us, we think that they somehow didn't fulfill, their side of the deal. They didn't know there was a deal, but we're judging them for their behavior in it. So these are all things that we can start taking charge of, by noticing, what we're thinking about. What rules have we set up for this interaction that you're the only one who knows them? So being able to discern the difference between liking someone because it's another human being, and maybe you share some preferences. You like the same movies, you like the same books, whatever. You like the same conversations, talk. You like the same food, so you go to lunch together all the time. Whatever those things are. But you start looking at others, as having this whole universe that they're experiencing, just like you. And if, trying to kind of be a part of that universe in this moment. Obviously, different conditions are more conducive to this, So, I mean, it's like, at a big party, the kind of interactions you can have with others is different from at a small gathering. And both have value. Yeah. Do you have a thought, Debbie?
I was thinking a little about, how you get interested in something that you're not that interested in when somebody's talking about it.
How do you do it, or how?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to someone yesterday who was talking about house hunting and describing a couple of houses, and I can't visualize things, so I saw that about myself. I don't know what, 2,500 square feet means versus another size, so, but I was trying to see that this is important to her. Even though
Right. And so then if we do that, if we say, recognize, okay, this is something I know nothing about, but it interests this person, then you can try to figure out good techniques to find out what makes it so interesting to this person. What is it that fascinates them? I can see this fascinates you. What is your hook? What hooks you in this, kind of thing, so that you can connect, because it's the hook that we can connect to, not the actual thing. It's like, if it's not something that it ever occurred to us to look into, or we don't have any exposure to it in our lives, but what we could be is interested in the person, and what makes it interesting to them, because it doesn't matter if we gain more stuff to think about. Like, so now you have to develop an interest in houses. No, you don't. You don't have to develop an interest in houses, but you have to have it as an interest in the person who's interested in houses. Because preferences, again, are something we can't control. They're from long time habits and whatever we're exposed to in this life, and all sorts of things ripening, So it's not like, it's just like, you don't have to hang out with just people who do like exactly what you like. Because that's kind of confining. But being interested in the people themselves is something, yet again. And all these types of things can help us be a little less upside down pots with people that are friends. They're already friends. But we might not be connecting with them very well because we're actually not present. Because we've already put them in a little box of, this is the person I go to lunch with, this is the person I go get coffee with, this is the person I like to go to movies with, this is the person I like to call when I'm in trouble. This is the, we pigeonhole them. And so sometimes we're not listening to the clues they're giving us about what's going on for them. And so we're not available to them. And so one of the ways the Buddha suggested that we might find life being more meaningful is this idea of cherishing others. What does that mean, to cherish someone else?
To see how you can possibly benefit them. To see
Feeling how you could possibly benefit them.
To hold them in high regard, to love them, to feel compassion for them.
Yeah, so it's sort of like we want to be able to develop the attitude that we have about our loved ones. That we see them, we hold them in high regard, we care about what happens to them, all that stuff. We want to have that same attitude towards everybody that we come into contact with, Just like when we see on the news some horrible story about some horrible thing happening to some other people that are total strangers, we have, we can have sincere, deep compassion for them because we can imagine being in their place. Yep.
Maybe like approaching people with like paying attention to what they need and not what you want to impose on the conversation. Because sometimes we approach people and already, I already know this person, I know what this person is gonna say, and this was the best for them. So you're kind of like waiting for them to close the sentence so you can tell them what you think about it. You didn't even hear the sentence. And sometimes you don't have to give that interaction. You just need to be present and just let them vent out or whatever. So being there for someone, I think, is that putting your thoughts aside, your judgmental mind aside, and just be present with them. That would help a lot.
Yeah, listening with an open mind, where you're not prejudging. Oh, this is what they always say. But also we want to spot when there's a part of us that's just looking at it from what can they give to me? And often, it's like we're so happy to bump into somebody because of what they can do for us. Like walk into a Dharma center, you're often, oh, I'm so glad you're here. You know how to do this. And so then you're folded, and so that it's like, I'm sorry, you don't care that I have showed up. It's just the fact that I have this skill. It's like they're wearing a badge. It says I have computer skills, and we need you right now, So we do that. I mean, and we do this, in all kinds of relationships. We forget, like, have you ever gotten home from work and just immediately had something you wanted your kids to do or your partner to do, or, and you just grab them right away because you've been thinking about it all the way home. You don't really say hello. How was your day? You just immediately, oh, I'm so glad you're home. Let's go do this. We just don't find out anything about anything because we have an agenda. So we want to look out for our agendas. If you want to have relationships, good relationships, satisfying relationships. I mean, if you don't care, then you don't listen, But if you really want to interact with people and have a sustaining kind of relationship, we need to be open to them, And open to the fact that we can be interested in all kinds of things we never expected to be interested in because we're interested in the person who's interested in them. We can also discover there are so many ways to, problem solve, to fix something, to, that, and if you put your both energies into it with an open mind, you might discover a much easier way to do something. I mean, that's what brainstorming is at work, it's like you're trying to take a bunch of smart people who have good ideas, and you let that synergy bubble up into some new idea. We can't do that if we close our mind. So self-reflection, really noticing what kind of agendas we have when we encounter others. And sometimes those agendas are, I just want people to like me, but that's an agenda. That's okay. We all have agendas, but we need to be able to look at that and say, why am I so worried about that? What's that tell me? Do I think I'm not good enough just as I am? Are there things about me that I feel like, oh, I got to change that? And is it realistic? Is it true? We really have to question what's going on in our head because we're not telling ourselves, accurate things. Attachment is an exaggeration of the goodness of things. I just saw the best dress I've ever seen. I've got to go get one just like in every color, blah, blah, blah. We exaggerate what we like. We do it when we meet someone new and we think, oh, you wouldn't believe the person I met today. Da, 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 da. There's something that hooked us and then we exaggerate it. We do the same thing with negative things. Someone says something to us that we don't like and we just, oh, you can't believe what a jerk this guy can be. Blah, 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 blah. Notice my gender difference there. Anyway. So, we have to notice how our mind's working so that we can pause and not follow some instinct or something that's, putting us in a direction we really don't want to go. We want to see how we set up our interactions for failure through our expectations. Yeah.
I work in healthcare and my expectations are for the best outcome of patients in the hospital. Good intentions, right?
Yeah.
But similar to what Anthony said, if I don't invest in my healthcare team and see where they're at on a human basis and invest in them sincerely, I don't have a rapport when I need things done stat. That's my impatience, but it's for the benefit of others. So I need stats for the benefit of, everyone. And
Yeah, that's a good rationalization there
I
that
know
you
it's a
got going.
rationalization, but is that the best? It's not the best way to utilize my intentions. But I don't want anybody to die
Right.
or decline if there's a possible intervention. So like I go into work with a healthcare team mind, like I really have to check in with everyone, see where they're at, so I can, have that intention for them personally, as well as for the patients they're caring for. So it's a real delicate balance.
Because
but
boom.
Mhm.
It shows you how interdependent we are.
Oh, yeah. Every single way.
It matters how we work together. And it's still going to be times where it's not going to work. It's not going to work out. Somebody will die.
Mhm.
That happens in hospitals, and it's not any one person's fault or anything. It just is the nature of healthcare and the body and all sorts of things. All sorts of things are involved in that. But you certainly don't want your interpersonal skills to be the reason why you can't get someone to hop to it when it's really necessary. And that's an important skill to have as a manager of healthcare people, So you don't want the emergency room people to kind of look, oh, I'm not going to do anything if she asks for it. That's contraindicated for the patient. So, but we can't take all the responsibility either. That would be an exaggeration. But we can reflect on what's my part of this obstacle. How am I contributing to this? And if it's because I tend to be reserved, or they think I'm reserved, or I don't listen to them and they think that I'm not heard anyway, or, I don't know, I'm making stuff up. It's just this way of realizing that because our interrelationships are so vital to the way we respond to things, that it really matters. It doesn't mean that people won't hop to it when we ask, but if they're starting to develop a resentment because of the way they're asked, eventually they'll burn out or move on or whatever. So it's a way of, we have to connect with the humanity of other people, that they have issues, they have stuff going on, they're distracted, they're just like you. And nobody's perfect. So we don't have to worry about being perfect. We just have to worry about if we're expecting ourselves and others to be perfect, because that's not realistic. It's not accurate. It's not even on the table. It's not going to happen. And being perfect means something different to everybody. But since we can't control other people and events, it's always guesswork. Because you don't know everything that's arising. Yeah.
Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it. That person has bad breath. If you say that in the most kind, beautiful, loving, caring, paying attention to them, they might respond positively.
Yeah, or they may not. And that's okay. See, that's the thing. We want to be able to do something in just the right way to get the results we want. That's an agenda. And nobody's signing contracts with you. Yeah.
It's a scary place to be.
when you don't know what's gonna happen next.
It is scary. And that's true for every person in the room. And that's part of what, one of the ways we can open our hearts is recognizing that everybody hates uncertainty. And it's one of the sufferings that the Buddha said that of being a human is the suffering of uncertainty. We're vulnerable. We can, in all kinds of ways. Obviously, in the hospital, we can die. That's big time vulnerability. That's scary. And we're not in control of the treatment. You ever feel like, on the plane, it's sort of like, well, it's just up to them now. Those people in the pilot seats in the air traffic control towers, and it's sort of like, like I'd be better at flying a plane than they are. Ha ha ha. Same thing with doctors, same thing, all this kind of stuff. When we have to, but the truth is, we're interdependent all the time. All the time. And so being able to just say, oh yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. It makes me a little nervous. So I need to be gentle with myself. We have to apply some self-care there. Okay, this edgy feeling is because I don't know what's going to happen, but maybe something good will happen. Sometimes we just forget that that's also one of the possibilities. But also, it's that other thing, if this doesn't work out well, what can you think? What's a way to look at that?
It's a learning experience for next time. All right, I'm exhausting some negative karma as well.
Yeah, you look at karma. Oh, well, good. Now their negative seed is just ripened. I'm done with that. Yay, finished. But we can also just look at it as, of course, sometimes sometimes it's just not good news, or things don't work out well. I mean, hoping that everything works out well is a setup for disappointment. And when
There's a country music song where the woman goes, all of my prayers were answered. Sometimes yes, and other times no.
yeah, so it's just, but that discomfort, we have to do some self-care for that. When we're feeling uncertain or unconfident, is that the word? Unconfident, insecure, I don't know. There's the opposite of confident. If I distract you too well, now who's going? Hypochondria, confident. We need to be able to go, that's okay. It makes sense that I'd feel uncomfortable because I don't know what the outcome is. And because it may be because it's important, I mean, it might be, you're waiting for your lab work back. This, as old person, this is what we think about a lot, but it may just be, will they call me back? We don't like that uncertainty state, but we can handle it. And we need to help ourselves handle it, because most things are uncertain. The truth is, every day we could walk out the door and have a flat tire. We could walk out the door and the car doesn't start. We could walk out the door and not be able to open the door because it's frozen shut. If you live up north, that happens. It's just, we get so accustomed to all the little things working that we're shocked when one of them doesn't work. That's because we're holding it to be permanent when it's not. Never was. Instead of thinking, oh, it's been my good luck that it's worked all this time, and now it's not working. So we just need to look at things from a sort of a realistic lens, that of course I'm not comfortable when I feel uncertain. That's okay. I faced discomfort before. It will end. And then if it's like, well, if this outcome occurs, if why I'm so nervous is because I'm really worried about this outcome, then you might want to reflect on all the different ways that you could, work with that. Or set it aside until because worrying and worrying without problem solving is a waste of time. But these are really good things to notice. We need to notice when we feel the discomfort of uncertainty, when we feel the discomfort of irritation, when we feel the discomfort of impatience, when we feel the discomfort of wondering if we, fit in, all the different ways in which we allow ourselves to get nervous, Everybody feels that way at some time. So oftentimes what we have to do is just ask ourselves, how will we help our best friend deal with this moment? And do that for ourselves. We're worth taking care of. So when we cherish others, it doesn't mean we abandon self-care. It just means we elevate everybody to the same status we have. We're all important. We all matter. And none of us can control other people. We're all in the same boat that way. So just like when we're looking at someone going, oh man, I know a better way to do that. People have looked at you and thought the same thing. So we just need to remember we are not that different about criticism, about judgment, about being hurt, about all those things, So we really want to treat others, an old golden rule, like we'd like to be treated. So one of the ways that we can work with this is to practice. Like if you have a difficult relationship, like you have a coworker that you always don't seem to get along with, you might want to picture it going differently. Just, sitting quietly and thinking about what are the conditions when that comes up, oh, it's always in, I don't know, the break room, whatever it really is there. You just want to think about all those things. So what could it be? Is it because they want to talk and I'm usually in a hurry, how can I work with that? And try to picture it differently. What could you say that would be different than what you usually say that might make the situation less volatile? Do I look at them with, oh my God, I can't believe they came in the room? Because that could, that's readable, folks, I mean, we could be wrong because we really can't read their minds, but we need to know that, of course, we convey things through our body language, our facial expressions, all that kind of stuff. And so we need to acknowledge, take responsibility when we're doing that, and be able to say, oh, blah, blah, blah. But we have to think, how can I do this differently? It may be as simple as coming up with a way to say something like, I don't have a lot of time, But interaction with others is actually the most valuable thing we have in our lives. We also have responsibilities. So we can't just spend all our work time making friends. We have a job to do. We need to do that too. But it is balance. Just like we said, you have to have good relationships with your coworkers in order to do well for the company, for the business, to get done what you need to do. But you don't have to be best friends with everybody. So we really want to see what habits we have, see how we act when we're uncomfortable, so that can be one of those clues. As soon as you notice you're uncomfortable, you realize, oh, I'm not particularly reliable in my kindness at this moment. So I need to really make sure I pause, not have a frown on my face, and try not to say anything. Just, when you're tired, when you're hungry, all those things we need to have to be aware. Oh, I'm not reliable at this moment. When we're really nervous or really, scared or really angry or impatient or whatever, those are all inaccurate states of mind. We are exaggerating something in those moments. Like if we're just feeling uncertain, we're exaggerating the importance of the outcome. If we're, impatient, we're exaggerating the importance of our time. all kinds of the ways that we're exaggerating something. If we really enjoying a chat with a coworker, we're exaggerating the importance of that conversation versus work. So we just have to, it is a balancing act, but it's a balancing act that takes into account our interdependence on each other for happiness. And for what gives us meaning and purpose. So it's not just purposeful to, you want the healthcare team to respond, competently and fast in an emergency, but these are also people that are doing these things. So we need to have a purpose in that, because one of the purposes of people who are managing other people is to take care of them. So they have good conditions to be competent, to be whatever, So it's a process of opening the heart and seeing what clues we're getting from others. Does not mean we have to walk around going, "Can I hand you a knife to stab me?" We need to also build our inner sense of worth. But that doesn't rely on other people. Because there are periods in everybody's life where we feel like you don't have friends. There are periods in everybody's life where it's like nothing seems to excite us. We all have these ups and downs throughout our lives. And we need to develop that inner confidence that we can handle it. This will pass, this will change. I'm able to do some things that'll help it change. It's like sometimes when you move to a new place, and then you don't have any friends, you don't know anybody, So you have to make active effort to grow a group, So it's inner confidence can help us with that. Knowing that you have value. You're not going to be liked by everybody. That's never going to happen. The Buddha wasn't liked by everybody. The Dalai Lama, is person non grata to the Chinese government, he's totally not liked by the government. It's every person that we admire, there's someone who doesn't like them. That's just the way it is. We all have different preferences. We have different values that we hold in high esteem. That all affects things. But we all have value, and we all will find people that, we fit with. And that's enough. No one's perfect. And this desire to take pieces out of other people's life. Oh, I wish I was more like that. I wish I was more like that. Wish I could dress like that. I wish I could do that. Whatever, does nothing but tell ourselves over and over again, we're not good enough as we are. And we can all look and reflect and go, I need to work on my speech. I don't, I'm a little too short with people, that kind of thing, and improve that. And you can look in your life and realize, well, I'm not like that with every single person. So I obviously have the capacity to grow this skill. And then we have to go, and I want to grow this skill because we need reasons. We good? Enough for this Sunday? We full? Any questions? So take a few moments just to notice if you're holding, tightness somewhere. Okay, my neck does move. Send yourself some messages of, may I be at peace. May those around me be at peace. May I know that I am loved. May those around me know that I am loved and that they are loved. May I know that I can handle whatever suffering comes my way. May everyone understand that they can handle whatever suffering comes their way. And may we all be free of suffering. One of the things that we can go for refuge in, according to Buddhism, is that we all have the potential to become a Buddha. So we all have that capacity to grow our capacity for compassion, generosity, and loving kindness, patience, and wisdom. We have that. We have what we need to be able to do that. We come that way. But because we misunderstand our interdependence, we misunderstand, the fact that we have to cooperate. We see ourselves as separate units that are all on our own, and we are not. All right. Let's share some prayers for others. So next Sunday, Venerable Amy will be here.
Yes.
Does she have a program on Saturday?
Yeah, so the way this is going to work, okay. So next week we have medicine. We have a few things for you to do before you leave.
Yeah, I understand.
So we'll continue their teaching with Venerable Tendrin. On Tuesdays, we're doing the Foundations of Buddhist Practice course. Thursdays, Intro to Refuge. Wednesday,
It's just applying whatever we try to do.
on Wednesday, we have Medicine Buddha Puja.
And that's good for the success of anything in our lives. We're worried about anything. It's a practice for that.
Yeah, so we'll have that at 7 p.m. If you want to help with setup or you have an offering to provide, come around 6 o'clock. And then we'll start at 7. And then, as Venerable Tendrin mentions, Venerable Amy will be visiting us for 2 weeks. Her first teaching will be on Sunday. So Sunday courses will have the theme of karma, attachment, self-compassion. Mondays, she'll be teaching a Guru Yoga course. So there'll be 3 courses there. And then Thursdays will be on wisdom, realizing emptiness. The Saturdays, November 8th and November 15th, these are going to be retreat days. So come to the center, bring your lunch. We'll take a break halfway through, but really great thorough practices. The first one will be on death and impermanence, and the second one will be on a green tower practice. All of this will be in the calendar and the newsletter, so I won't quiz you on your memory here. And then Labab Duchen, one of the holy days, happens to fall on during her visit. So on that day, November 11th, we're going to take precepts in the morning. So we do that online, and those are precepts that you take for holy days because the karma, our actions multiply the karmic impact. So really
Both positive and
powerful.
negative. So we try to do the positive.
If I said we take precepts so that's like no sexual misconduct, no killing, you monitor what you eat, right? No or do you fast?
You don't eat afternoon.
You don't eat afternoon, and then no jewelry. So
No fragrances, no makeup, no,
good work from home day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
First week that Venerable Amy's here, it's Sunday, Monday, and Thursday, not Tuesday and Thursday.
no, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a teacher.
Yeah, so different days.
Yep, slightly different day. So that's on the calendar now. It's on Meetup. We'll send a newsletter this week. I delayed in giving that information to Hernan, so maybe I spoke him about sending it to me soon. And then I wanted to just preview after that in late November, early December, Venerable Calden will be visiting. And then in January, Venerable Tenjin will be returning.
That's right.
And so,
No pressure.
as a small token of our appreciation, I wanted to provide an offering. May you have a long life and return to us quickly. And you were talking about, may we know that we're loved, and may the people around us know they're loved. And so may you know that you're loved and all of us.
Okay,
Yeah, kind of in my haste.
yes, you did. Let me take, all right.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful, but I can't figure out. Okay, there we go. Don't be embarrassed. We all know. Thank you. All right. So, and Venerable Amy will explain all about holy days and precepts and all that, so don't start worrying yet. But, all right, so we want to, is that all the announcements?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I forgot that. Okay. So now we want to rejoice in any positive energy in our minds, which just may mean even just thinking, oh, I might be able to do something a little differently, or, oh, gee, maybe I am have value. That's a really positive thought. Everything we do to take care of our minds is really important. So, we want to rejoice in that. And then that creates the cause for positive things to ripen in the future. And so we want to share that with others through our prayers. Nana, have you really started screen sharing? Look at you. Welcome back. Nana's always been our prayer helper. Okay. All right. So we just have this. This is the mind that was just to share everything that benefits us with others. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, attain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May the and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then the long life prayer for His Holiness. Hey. Ta-da. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Shinrei Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until Hisara ends. The swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam father and son, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge in infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that's never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, he suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean, the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you, Nana. You could end the recording, whoever's
I would-
doing
I
that.
will-
Hi, Retta.